Welcome to the Ken McElroy podcast. I'm your host, Danille, here hosting for Ken because he is out traveling. So I wanted to put together a good podcast for everyone that I feel like could be beneficial. And one thing I think a lot of you are struggling with is having debt and working on paying off debt. So something that I did in my 20s is I was in a lot of debt. I had a car payment, credit card bills, an additional loan payment, and I felt like just, unattainable that I would ever pay that off. And I was going in more and more debt every single month. So what I was able to do is I was able to move home because I was like 24, 25 years old and work 2 jobs and get that all paid off. But I know a lot of you, you can't just move back home because maybe you're older, maybe you have a family, maybe your parents don't live in the same area that you do. So I put together ways that you can pay off debt quickly, and I used a lot of these ways when I was working on paying off my debt. The first thing you need to do, and you have to do this, is use a spreadsheet. Because if you're not physically tracking it, there's no way you're going to be able to pay attention to it. When I hear people say, oh, I'm going to cut back on my expenses, oh, I'm going to really monitor my money, if you're not tracking every single thing, there's no way you're going to be successful in doing this. And for those of you that have tried to do it without tracking your money, you know what I mean. You have to know where every dollar's coming from and where every dollar is going. So the way I do it is super basic. I just use my Notepad app on my iPhone, and I just write down every single expense I have rounded to the highest dollar. So if it's $26.50, I round it to 27. I have a food category, a gas category, a fun money category, and I know the money coming in every month is basically the same every month. I track everything, and actually Ken still makes fun of me because he'll send me to get like something that's $1 and I put it in my Notepad app because I feel like I have to track every single thing, and I still put myself on a budget. I don't let myself go over my budget for the month. If I have leftovers at the end of the month, I do roll it over to the next month, but I don't let myself go over, and if there's something that I want that's over that amount, I have to find a way to make additional income or save up to afford it. So the next step is to address your housing. With housing, you want to live somewhere that's safe and nice, but you want it to be affordable for yourself. So if you're living in like a luxury apartment, do you really need the luxury apartment? Is that just for your ego? Could you just live in a modest, normal apartment and save yourself a few $100s every single month? Secondly, can you get a roommate? Like maybe you have 2 bedrooms, maybe you have 1 big bedroom and you wouldn't mind sharing. There's a lot of people out there right now looking for housing, and you could get a lot of money for your room. So I think it's something to think about to bring in a roommate if you can. Something else to think about is my parents come into town every March for a month to Arizona. They rent a 1-bedroom condo in Scottsdale for $4,000 for the month. And it seems to go up every year, but this year it was $4,000. The girl that lived there leaves and stays with friends for the month because she lives in this condo when it's not being rented. This is her home. But she's making $4,000 to go and kind of couch surf for a month with friends. Now, this is not an ideal situation, but when you're looking to pay off debt, $4,000 is a lot of money, and she doesn't have to work any more than she normally does. She just has to kind of figure out her living situation. So if you live in a place where, Airbnbs are prevalent, this might be an option for you. I also know like Phoenix, we're hosting the Super Bowl in next January, and condos are going for like $15,000 for the week. So look to see if there's any big events in your area where maybe it would make sense for you to rent your place on Airbnb. So the third piece of advice to kind of get this debt paid down is to get a second job. So it's fine to work 1 job, but obviously if you're in debt, you're pretty tight on cash. That's why you're in debt. That's why you're spending more money than you make. And part of it is cutting back, but part of it is making more money. So especially, when you're in that payoff debt mode, go get a bartending job, go get a serving job, go watch dogs on Rover. That's an app where you dog sit. Get something to make extra money, because if you can make $200-300 a week extra, that's going to be $1,200 a month you could be putting towards paying down your debt. And remember, once you're out of debt, that's one step closer to financial freedom. Just work now so you don't have to work as hard later. That's always the key. So part of paying off debt is making more money. The other part is cutting back. And it's cutting back on things you like to do, like dinners with friends and going out drinking and shopping and all the things we like to do for fun. And some people can just put their head in the sand and they don't even, they just don't do that stuff for 2 years while they're working and they're paying off their debt. I am very social, so it is not an option for me. I would be miserable if I just didn't hang out with my friends for a while and missed out on all this fun stuff. So basically, I just had strategies around doing things with friends to save money. So for example, if my friends invited me to dinner, I would still go, but I would eat before I went, and then I would just get a really small appetizer, like a side salad for like $8 or $9 at dinner, while everyone else was getting, $30 entrees because I had already eaten. But that allowed me to still be social without spending a lot of money. And then secondly is the drinks, right? Drinks are expensive. So I might have a couple of drinks before I go, or I might just get like a soda water, which everyone thinks is a vodka soda all night, which all that cost me is $1 to tip the bartender to make it for me. And that way I'm still being social without spending, $15 for a drink, because that really can add up for a lot of people. And then for shopping for me, like some people really like to shop and they have a lot of fun with it. And you can still shop on a budget. Like you can shop at TJ Maxx, you can shop at Target. You just have to take down, from where you're used to shopping and spending a lot of money on that, right? So if you're spending, $10, $15 for a dress, then that's gonna be a lot better than spending $100 a dress at like Nordstrom or something. So that's my advice to you. I really think that you need to focus on getting out of debt because this is the first step. You can't do anything till you're out of debt. And the credit card interest rates are adjustable. And at times of rising interest rates, those are going to go up. And you're never going to be financially free until you break away from this pile of debt that you're sitting on. So use these strategies and then you can start saving for your first house or your first rental property after you get your debt paid down. And it's totally doable. I've done it and you can do it too. So we'll see you guys next week.